So you will be recording, yes? Good. Good. I tried to make a slideshow. One moment. Why they are not? Okay, now it's good. Okay, so good morning. Good morning, the 1st of June, the beginning of the summer. It looks that possibly we have to start our, vacations, our holiday time, and probably it will come soon, but still there are some communications and some issues to talk about. So my name is Vільми Чинґієне, and I'm very glad and very honored to host you and to meet all of you at Boris Grynchenko University in Kiev, in Ukraine. This is my, third, official contact with your university, and I do hope for some next steps of our cooperation. And this is the main reason why I decided somehow to be proactive and to present myself and share with you with my knowledge and experience towards sport and physical activity, policy management, and crucial issues what we are all facing nowadays. So, thanks, Olena, again for your help, for your communication, and let us start today's my sharing my knowledge with you. So it's quite intensive, and you are very free to enter and to leave when you are when you like and when you are able to do that. And if you have any questions, any comments, any remarks, so please either use chat, or if we will dedicate some time for the live discussion, it might be even more communicative. Well, I'd love to come to Kiev again and have a personal contact with all of you, but this time it is not possible, and we do hope that time will change soon. So, according to our program, we do have 4 lectures, 2 lectures of today, 2 lectures for tomorrow, and lectures are recorded, and I would be glad, to share with a PowerPoint presentation. So I will send, and you can use them in your further studies or any other professional or personal life experiences you are willing to do. So my first lecture of today is about sport policy, organization, and management in Lithuania. Why I decided, and again, those topics I've constructed on my personal feelings, what I would like to share with you the most. But at the same time, I'm wondering why I am, sharing this issue with you, issue of policy, organization, and management. Because we are different countries, different locations, different historical backgrounds, and again, I would possibly start from my personal presentation, who I am, why I start talking about, well, peculiarities of sports system in Lithuania. And later I will give you some insights about my wonderful, beautiful small country, and a few words about my university where I am from. And after, we will start our first session of today. After the first lecture, we will have a break. And the second part, we will talk about, well, the second religion in Lithuania, about basketball. So this is a program for today. So why I am here? Why I am, trying to share about sport, management, in general terms, management issues with you today. Well, sport for me is something what I am actually dedicating all my life, I can say. So I remember myself when I was 7 years old, and when my father took me and brought me first to the swimming sport, but that was not a good experience for me. And next sport for me was the basketball. So I dedicated 18 years of my life in a professional way of doing that, playing basketball. During the Soviet times, during the Soviet Republic representative, starting from the team of the city. I was born in Kaunas, the second city of Lithuania. So starting playing in Kaunas, afterwards we have a sport class, 12 girls and 12 boys composed a sport class of basketball at that time. And I was a part of national team representative, starting from the kids' age until the university. So my bachelor was giving me bachelor and master at that time in physical education at the Lithuanian Physical Education Institute. Nowadays it's called Lithuanian Sports University. And next, I immediately went to Moscow Lomonosov University, where I've spent 3.5 years and where I defended my PhD in economics of sport. So, well, during my more than 20 years research and project experience, I gain knowledge when I feel my obligation, and we as an academics are dedicated to that, to share. That's what I'm doing right now. And the picture, what you see in the bottom, this is one of the last national team preparing for annual tournament, international, well, among republics at that time, tournament, and we are ready for the official ceremony. So my number is 5, and my standing position was as a guard. So what comes to your mind when you speak and when you think and when you hear about Lithuania? So this is a lot of possibly imaginations and possibly stereotypes and possibly different good and bad news come to your mind. But it is a country where we associate it with the UNESCO heritage, with a nice food, good beer, nice sightseeings, and for sure basketball. So we're a rather small country. We're a very lowland country. We used to say, and even we do have a great song about 3 million of Lithuanians, but currently it is not like that. It's, as you can see, according to the latest statistics, we are almost 9 million inhabitants. The capital is Vilnius. We are a parliamentary republic, and official language is Lithuanian. And our ethnic composition is really the vast majority, more than 85%, we are Lithuanians, and we are Roman Catholic. Just a couple of interesting facts, what might draw your attention from the historical perspective. We've been mentioned as a country in a historical chronicles in 1009. During the 13th century, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania was established by Duke Mindaugas. Many years and few centuries, we've been a common state with Poland, so Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. But afterwards, we came under the Imperial Russian control, and Lithuania was proclaimed as independent state in the year 1918. And coming to the new times, on March 11, Lithuania regained its independence. And in 14 years, we've joined European Union and NATO at the same time. So actually, Duke Mindaugas was the first and only one king in Lithuania. And during the 14th and 15th century, Lithuania was recognized as the largest state in Europe, and well, our lands lasted from Baltic Sea to Black Sea. And according to French scientists, 24 kilometers north of Vilnius, there is a geographical center of Europe. So this is a picture where you can see there is a nice monument, a nice park around. Again, there are some contradiction theories. Where is the geographical center in fact, how we count, but this is what we are proud about and attract some tourists during all, year round. So I am from and representing Lithuania, Mykolas Romeris University, which actually was established in 1991, starting as a police academy, after law university, and later we became as interdisciplinary university. We do have about 6,000 students, and we'll keep communication and cooperation with a lot of foreign universities in different countries, and 500 of academic and administration staff are servicing our educational research and project activities. As for area where I am representing, In the year 2013, actually, I've started to work in that university almost 10 years ago, was invited to create a master degree program where it was created in the year 2013, and next year we wanted to take our first intakes. And the program itself, Sport Industry Management, it's really a unique program combining sport and business and management at the same time. And starting from this academic year, we launched our program in English language. But that, if it might be in your interest for your future or some exchange possibilities, we might speak during our break or anytime you would like. And finally, a few years ago, we launched a bachelor specialization, which called Active Leisure Management. Actually, this is a specialization from a bachelor program, which called Tourism Management and Heritage. So from tourism, mainstream, we do have a specialization which concerns active leisure management. So I am a coordinator of those two program and specialization at my university. So what is the main idea and main task of today? So the content of my speech, of my first lecture, is what we would overview the sport policy, organization, and management in general in Lithuania, using critical reflective approach. So I will be giving you some insights, some comments to understand specific issues in more detail. And again, if you have some questions or comments, don't hesitate to write them, and we will talk about that. So the content itself is, we speak about sport policy institutions, sport policy processes, and sport policy outcomes. So this is rather a strict framework of the lecture of today. There are, plenty of material what I've prepared for you today, but let us see how it goes, and starting from question marks, just to focus your attention and just to reflect possibly your mind. So I am starting from two questions. First, what are the current realities and challenges of the sport sector in Europe, in Ukraine, in Lithuania? So what are the current issues, current questions and ongoing developments regarding sports sector? Well, to be honest, I will not be touching the complicated situations towards COVID pandemic. This is something what we all in overall world we have to cope with, and there are specific issues, specific cases and situations. So I would try not to ignore this reality, in fact, but I will not be pointing out that the reason is because of that. I will not be giving you some answers regarding COVID. I try somehow to not to avoid, but to be quiet from the distance. So the question is, what are the current realities and challenges? And the second question is why we should study, understand, analyze, and evaluate sport policy as such. Because if we are entering and if we are studying in any degree program, sport degree program, either it is sport coaching or physical education or sport management or sport journalism or any other program we are entering or we are representing in, we should somehow to understand what is going on a systematic level, on a system of sport and physical activity in the country. And not only at the national level, at the regional level, at the local level. So at a systematic way. On the other hand, we should understand how organization is operating and why it's operating in one way but not in the other way. So we should study, we should cope our knowledge, we should understand the processes, we should use appropriate analysis methods to analyze what is going on, to map the analysis and to use appropriate methods. And we should use appropriate evaluation tools to evaluate the sport policy. Is it only a policy on a paper, or this is a policy in reality, or this is a policy towards the outcomes and concrete results which might be evaluated? Again, by whom, which indicators to use, and so on and so forth. So this is a current thinking point what I would like to mention. So a few common policy and sport policy theories which I would like to draw your attention. While we're speaking about policy in general, we should take into consideration two sides of the policy. What are the actions for policy? And for policy, we should keep going on the analysis which makes a direct contribution to policy processes. But this is we need. But there we here we need to clarify concrete criteria to judge what is going to be done, or what is in reality realizing or developing. So we have to try to create a concrete criteria in order to judge policy, in order to make our judgments. Is it good policy or is it bad policy? Is it not efficient policy, or it is not enough political will to do that on that? So concrete criteria should be developed. On the other hand, we should enhance decision making in relation with agreed criteria. When we develop concrete criteria, we should not only develop them on the paper, but we should operate and make concrete decisions implementing policy based on the agreed criteria. So we will speak about performance evaluation tomorrow. So this is something what I am starting from. The other side of the policy is that when policy is implemented, yeah, for example, concrete strategic plan or concrete operational plan, we should analyze the policy process, how the concrete outcomes have been achieved, and we should be able to explain how the policy process operated. So what kind of interest groups were interfacing, what kind of interest of a concrete organizations or concrete persons or concrete political parties were in that policy process. So we should be very clear what interest groups were involved in a concrete policy process and what concrete outcomes and or results out of this policy have been achieved. So this is a variety of issues which we are able to analyze starting for policy and off policy issues. So I'm not going into details out of, but well, starting from methodologies for policy evaluation, defining critical policy success factors, analysis of type and policy program, analysis of policy structures, analysis of key policy concepts, analysis of different and social theory and policies analysis, and so on and so forth. So variety of issues we are concerning when we take into consideration both analysis for policy and of policy. And finally, the last slide, the common theory slide. According to Ian Henry, one of the outstanding professor from Loughborough University, UK. Nowadays, he's a professor emeritus already, but he was one of my not direct but indirect teachers, and we did have a few very nice communication during the lifespan. So according to him, there are 4 types of comparative analysis of sport policy, and seeking similarities, describing differences, theorizing the transnational, and defining discourse. So there are 4 types of comparative analysis, but to each of that type, we are using the same criteria. So there are 4 criteria. What is the nature of a concrete type of analysis? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Because there is no ideal type of analysis. There are some strengths and the weaknesses at the same time. And what are the core problems? Why this concrete type of comparative analysis of sport is not able possibly to use in a concrete situation or in a concrete context. So when we try to make a comparative analysis of sport policy using seeking similarities, the nature is based on law. For example, we see, does a law on sport exist in Ukraine, and does a law on sport exist in Lithuania? So we just compare, yeah? And generalization, what kind of, for example, institutions are implementing concrete policies, and what kind of activity documents, strategic documents, for example, exist, and so on. Number of cases, because, well, strength is that we have to reveal a concrete cases in each world country, or in each world country level, if we speak about, for example, local level. Yeah. At the same time, sometimes we do not have an explanations why it exists that side or that side. And the main or core problem in this first type of comparative analysis, that we should admit, and we should realize that there are different contexts while we are analyzing sport policy in different countries. So, while seeking similarities is one of the types. The other type is describing differences. While we describe differences, the historical specificity makes the most important factor. How and why societies differ, we should analyze in depth in order to find out why this and this evolution of such a phenomenon, for example, football, how and why a football society differ, for example, in Lithuania and Ukraine. And for sure in Ukraine, you are much more stronger in terms of playing football than in Lithuania. But the question is how and why the football societies differs in different countries. The weaknesses, only historical contingencies, so that the historical approach is rather dominating, but this is not the only factor which influence the development of football, for example, as I gave it as an example. And core problem, validation of interpretation. Well, there is no possibility to validate the interpretation of a concrete author, because the view on a concrete historical stage or on a concrete historical development, it's really very subjective. This is really personal. And as I like to say, there is no one truth. There are many truths. The only we have to make my truth, well, bigger or better with more stronger arguments. And third and fourth type, theorizing the transnational. This is really when we try to compare, the sport policies, for example, in Europe, in Northern America, in Australia, in Africa, in Asia as a continent. While you do have to have a lot of knowledge, there is a great complexity in that type, and the main problem in using this type is to keep balance. Because it's a really great scope of developments while we are willing to compare the continental sport policies, uniting factors and describing other factors. And finally, defining discourse. So this is what I really like, this type of sport policy analysis, but this is quite complicated and quite difficult, because we have to have a specific knowledge in a concrete policy developments. So and while we are analyzing the policies, we should reveal all existing problems. So it's a problem-based actually type, and not knowing in reality what's happening, it's really very difficult to use this type of comparative analysis. So for example, I can use this defining discourse type in my country, analyzing sport policy, but I am not able to do that in Ukraine. I possibly should spend, I don't know how many days or months or possibly years to understand what's happening, what's going on. And weaknesses, problems are not independent, sure. Usually problems are interconnected, and one problem brings two more, two others brings two, count two, and so on and so forth. And the main problem is validity and reliability. So how to validate the concrete problem existence, possible solutions framework, and so on and so forth. Again, this is one person or group of person of scientists issue to strive for the greatest degree of validity if it is possible. So, partly answering to the question what has been raised, what are the realities and challenges of sport sector in Lithuania? Well, three main bullet points. We should, well, we and another country, while we are speaking about realities, actually the balance should be kept between strategy, which is as a long-term perspective document, policy document, and government program. Because what do we see? The government program, it comes every 4th year period, while the new government with the new political party is elected. At the same time, it might be even less time. So the government might be changed due different circumstances, might be changed in 1 year or 2 years or whatever. But the main strategic direction should be kept. And, the issue is how to keep the balance. The second reality, the second challenge is how to secure the vertical integration between national and local sport policies. So national sport policy, the central governmental sport policy, and the local sport policy. How to secure the vertical integration. And there is in between the regional. About the regional policy, this is a very interesting issue at Lithuanian level. In Ukraine, you do have regional policies as well as a big country, sure. So how to secure that vertical integration? It cannot be like that national sport policy goes towards that, and local policy goes in an opposite direction. No way. And the third bullet point, continuation of the policy directions. Again, it's a little bit, keep up together with the first one, continuation of the policy directions. If the policy is agreed, we should make possibly to secure the continuation. If something is bad, we stop implementing sport policy, which is granted by the certain documents and laws and so on and so forth, and we should try to make some amendments, some changes, some inputs, what we see that this is not valid, and we should keep going on more comprehensive possible issues and try to continue the policy directions. So this is what we start from. Okay, so well, this is circle which sometimes I keep it explaining, in a 3 different pillows, usually, or in a correct academic way, I should bring you knowledge about policy institutions which exist in Lithuania, sport policy institutions, policy processes, and policy outcomes. So it should be as a separate pillows. At the same time, it depends on the approach. To be honest, usually, and I've prepared to make it differently, but having in mind a concrete time which is dedicated, I cannot spend a few hours explaining that. So I've tried to combine sport policy institutions and processes together, and outcomes, and you will see it will be some kind of mixture. But as for the outcomes, I would like to draw your attention to the 3 main policy outcomes in the very beginning of my lecture. So, policy institutions and policy processes. Starting from the sport policy institutions. Sport policy institutions, starting from the governmental level and non-governmental level. What are those sport organizations, institutions, which are dealing with the sport policy at governmental level, non-governmental level, and what are those intermediate actors? To be honest, I do not like very much those intermediate actors composition, but this is brought from the Belgium study, Great Belgium study, which has been composed several years ago, and we as Lithuania reported about our sport structure. So this is their approach. So I keep it using, and we will see who are those intermediate actors between governmental and non-governmental level. So I would show this picture for you several times during the lecture, but the main idea, and you can see that governmental, intermediate, and non-governmental level. And now we are focusing on national level, governmental level. So, Ministry of Education, Science and Sport, and Sport Promotion Fund. Later, we keep our journey down. You see the regional level, in fact, is empty. I will tell you about it later on. And there is a local level. We will speak about it later on. So, national level, governmental, national level. So, in fact, in Lithuania, we do have several legal documents, legal acts, which are dedicated to sport. So first of all, the Constitution, the chapter 57, well, not 53, okay. 50, okay, in the Constitution, there is one sentence. So somehow looking from the sport policy perspectives, we are secured with the highest document of the state. So it sounds like that. The state shall promote physical culture of society. This is the original translation, physical culture. We don't use culture anymore, but physical culture. So shall promote physical culture and shall support sport. So Constitution shows two sides of sport: sport for all, or grassroots sport, or physical activity, or physical culture, as we can see, and that side of competitive sport, the amateurs or professional, but in general, top level sport. So state, in fact, takes care about two sides of sport. The first law on physical education and sport, well, the first, after we regained our independence in 91, the first law was adopted in 95. But the very first law, what we used to have during our first independence, it was adopted in 1938, just a couple of years before Second World War. And well, any law is not a stable, is not a status quo issue. So it was several years, several times amended, corrected, and so on. But what you see that 2 years ago, not even 2 years ago, even less, in December will be 2 years, as a law on sport was adopted in our system. You can see that there is now physical culture and physical education. So we remain on sport. Sport for all and sport as a top level. So law on sport, which gives us, well, somehow a new insights and a new outlook towards Western European understanding of sport. Well, understanding on a paper, on understanding on a legal system and legal environment in Lithuania, but I'm somehow in doubt how it is realized in a people's mind and in a people's mindset. Okay, so at this particular moment, starting from the year 2021, we are implementing National Progress Plan, NPP, and that sounds in English and Lithuanian the same. NPP plan, where is a part which concerns sport development. I will give you some details how it looks like. And together with the law on sport, and it was very clear pointed out that the responsibility for sport, for state sport policy formulation, coordination, and implementation is responsible. The responsibility lies to the Ministry of Education, Science, and Sport. Until 2019, the sport was under the Ministry of Interior, and sport issues, in charge for sport issues was Department of Physical Education and Sports, under the government of the Republic of Lithuania, actually under the Ministry of Interior. So now somehow sport as an activity, as an important part of our lives, is integrated in the Ministry of Education and Science. If you look around the world, around Europe, actually in France, there is a separate Ministry of Sport, but if you see around the Baltics, around the other, you know, further Central Europe, sport is incorporated either in the Ministry of Culture, like in Estonia, or Ministry of Education and Science, like in Latvia, or Ministry of Sport and Tourism, like in Poland, and so on and so forth. So, in NPP 2130, there are two tasks foreseen which concern sport in general. So, which concerns? So, sport is a part of implementing the second and the fourth task, to increase the social well-being and inclusion of the population, strengthen health, and improve the demographic situation in Lithuania. So sport is a part foreseen in the task number 2. And the next task is to strengthen national and civic identity, increase cultural penetration and societal creativity. So sport is playing its role in that fourth general task of the Society of Lithuania, as it is written in NPP. As for concrete tasks which are formulated for sport development program, to promote health preservation and promotion activities and strengthen the psychological resilience of society. So as you can see, sport is not the final goal of the government, of the society. Yeah, sport is rather like a tool to use it for promotion, health, and psychological resilience. And more concrete or more close to the sport essence is the next program, because there are two programs which I developed, so I just took the titles of the programs. To strive to increase the highest achievements of Lithuanian sports, to strive to increase. So there is an attempt to increase the highest achievements, which bring to any country the image, the reputation, the other, benefits for the different target groups of the population. If we look at the government of the Republic of Lithuania nowadays, so there is an 18th Lithuanian government, which was elected last year and which has a program for the next 5 years. So there is a project. Well, now all programs are like a project. So project is titled Sport System for Physical Activity, Inclusion, and High Performance. So there are two articles, Article 61, Article 62, which is focused on a sport and physical activity in general. So there are four main lines, main pillars, if you wish, regarding current governmental policy program. So responsible transparent and effective sports and physical activity policy. Responsible, transparent, and effective. Secondly, an effective and sustainable sport management structure. So somehow something has to be done in order to secure that effective and sustainable sport management structure. Third issue, a healthy and active society. And the last one, national visibility through sports. So this is high performance, high sporting results, achievements, which is important for current government as well. So there are 4 pillars for current government, which are in a conjunction with the general, well, NPP. And this is, well, I'm not going into detail. This is a main focus point towards strategic sports federations, their role in the society, both for grassroots sport and for high performance sport. And this is a particular attention paid for their role to play. And very, very briefly, our current government is based on a coalition. Homeland Union, Lithuanian Christian Democrats, Liberal Movement, and Freedom Party. So, well, just to give you as a fact. Now, if we look at the processes, at the sport policy processes, and some part of, concrete sport policy results, what do we see? And here I would like just to draw your attention, because in spite of the fact that the ministry took over the sport department, the policy formulation and implementation, well, the strongest part of the sport department was a program which was national one. Now there are some changes, and not changes as a positive changes towards this particular program, but I decided to keep it and to show you the essence and importance this government activity, and I do hope that it will really be implemented in our society, or continue to be implemented as well. So, a specific program, Learn to Swim. So the idea is to take all kids from 8 to 10 years old and to learn them to swim. Why? We, as a European country, we are keeping, the first or the second place. I would like not to say the first, trying, to make it more softy. We, as a Lithuania, in a competition, the bad sense competition, we are the first or the second country in Europe, well, European Union, where the most thinking persons are. So it looks, and well, government believes that due to the fact that people do not have an abilities and skills to swim, and some of those accidents are based on children. So children become a victim of the situation due to the fact that they do not have necessary skills to swim. So the program itself is a great idea. The realization through the municipalities, through the cooperation among the ministries, swimming federation, municipalities, and private companies, private companies initiate, some funding and some, competitions, while kids are already swim and they have a common activities on that. So I really like that program. The second program is the government program, physical education badge. Being at school, kids are able to practice sport during their physical education lessons, and not only, but there are a system created where 3 different badges, according to their age, are able to obtain. So as you can see, grow and strengthen, move every day and get better. So all schools are open to participate. It really depends on the enthusiasm of the physical education teacher, and it depends on the, well, again, policy of physical education and sport promotion policy at school level. So the director of the school is really should be enthusiastic about that. And we keep, running that program. And in the year 2004, when the European year was recognized, European Year Education through Sport, in the book, in the presentation of the good practices of promoting physical activity, my colleague and myself, we wrote a nice article, presenting this badge program, and it looks like that. So children are doing different exercises, and they are getting some points, and in order to get concrete amount of points, you are receiving the badge. And the last, if I remember well, example of the national policy program, sport policy program, is sporting community. So again, striving to promote physical activity among different target groups across the country in different communities. So together with the municipalities and with their resources and their enthusiasm, and again, their local policy statements, there are some commonalities of promoting physical activities to different groups of population. And these activities are usually based on the recommendations on health enhancing physical activity, on HEPA, we call it HEPA recommendations, which are common and which are reflected around Europe every 3rd year. So next very important issue, we're still on a governmental level of institutions and processes of sport policy. I'm speaking about Sport Promotion Fund. Speaking about Sport Promotion Fund. I have dated some data, latest data. So in Lithuania, we do have a Sport Promotion Fund, which composed from excise duty or taxes from alcohol, tobacco, and lotteries. So 1% from tobacco and alcohol sales and 10% from lotteries, we compose a fund. And there are 4 activities which goes through the fund. And the 5th is a sport facility, but activities which are under the coordination of the Sport Promotion Fund are the following. So, promotion of physical activity, purchase of sport inventory and equipment, organization of sport events, and for continuing education of sport professionals and dissemination of sport information. So when we cope the money into the fund, there is a specific process where every organization in Lithuania, not necessarily sport, every organization in Lithuania with the idea of either promotion physical activity, either necessity to buy sport equipment, or to create an educational program to the employees, any organization could apply to the fund and get some funding to their idea. So we run this fund, and what is new and what is dedicated by the law, that 10% of the funds should be implemented through the promotion of disability sport. So 10% should go or be distributed to the disability sport. Every time there is a big discussion about the contribution of priorities of the fund, and well, I am an expert of that fund while evaluating projects which organizations are submitting. So there is again political debates every time. And what I mentioned during the community activities, that in Lithuania, as in any other European Union country, every 3 years, there are 23 areas when we do have to measure the implementation of HEPA recommendations, of HEPA guidelines. So Lithuania, we are reporting to European Commission every year, how do we progress with the implementation of variety of programs towards promotion of physical education, physical activity, physical education among different groups of population. So, and local level, as I already talked to you, local level, what do we have at local level? In Lithuania, we do have 60 municipalities, 12 cities, and 48 district municipalities. There are two types of structural units. In a bigger city, we do have separate sport division. In the other cities, we have a division which are in conjunction with the culture, education, youth, tourism, and so on. 85, in fact, it's a little less, but nevertheless, it's around 80 sport schools. We call it athletes training centers, exist in Lithuania from the Soviet times. So local municipalities are funding those schools up to now. So across country, we do have 3 sport gymnasiums or 3 specialized sport entities for talented kids. So in Vilnius, in Šiauliai, and Panevėžys, 3 cities where we have a specialized sport gymnasiums. If you can see the number of participants, so this is youth, usually up to 19 years mainly. You see 10 the most popular sports among kids and youth, and you can see there is a dynamics in every 4th year. So basketball and football keep the highest position as a ball games, as a team games in Lithuania. So, okay, yeah, so this is governmental level, and we go down to the non-governmental level. Well, nothing very much to add to that. I didn't start it, but I say not too much add. Well, in fact, it is clear that at non-governmental level, at national level, in every country, we do have Olympic committee. So 41 national Olympic federation is composed of members, official members, institutional members of National Olympic Committee. The second national non-governmental level organization in Lithuania is union, Sport Federations Union. So not only Olympic Committee, but there is as a parallel organization which unites 73 members. So in fact, the same organization which are representing in Olympic Committee are representing in union as well. So there are some duplications, there are some function issues, but okay. But what is very interesting that around 30 federations, they do not belong to the union. So they're really independent, and yeah, well, for example, basketball, they are not a member of the union, but sure is a member of Olympic Committee because basketball is an Olympic sport. And yeah, Sport for All Association, again, is a national level organization which unites 20 voluntary sport organizations around the country. So Lithuanian Student Sport Organization, Lithuanian Women's Sport Organization, and so on and so forth. There are, well, different activities, mainly sport events, which Sport for All organization is running every year. And they have plenty of different mass sport activities. And yeah, there are 20 organizations, and you can see easily, you know, the names, and there are clubs and, you know, some funding statistics, but this is on your own, nothing for me specifically to add, but this is the year 2016. I've tried to obtain the newest information, but it looks quite rather difficult. Yeah, what they have organized and still continue to organize different activities like Sport for All Festival, Lithuanian Neighborhood Sport Games, Kindergarten Championship, a very nice initiative, I, Mother and My Grandmother. This is a women's sport organization initiative. And at the European level, we are running Be Active Week, which is usually the last week in September. So Association Sport for All, they are in charge, you know, to get some funding and to write a project and get some funding from the European Commission to organize this Be Active Week and different festival. Okay. Yeah. And there are different initiatives you might. So what about intermediate actors? Yeah, my time is running, but I still ask you 5 minutes to finalize. So what about intermediate actors? As I mentioned, that those actually, I've pointed out 3 main organizations which are in between governmental and non-governmental level, which are interacting in order to secure sport policy implementation processes. So, National Physical Education and Sport Council, Association of Heads of local municipality sport divisions and association of the heads of sport schools. So it looks that those umbrella organizations are striving to implement sport policy processes involving and combining, the interests both from governmental and non-governmental levels. And sure, it's a more political structure, it's more advisory function, but still they keep playing their role. And what I should add as a critical reflective comment, that very much it depends on the leader of the organization. So, for example, Association of the Heads of Lithuanian Municipal Divisions, the young, ambitious guy, the head of the sport division at Šiauliai municipality, next week I'm going to visit them, he started to be a leader of this association, and very big issues they start to solve out with the ministry, with the Olympic Committee, with the parliament, and so on and so forth. So again, we should not to forget that sport, it goes from the grassroots, and the municipalities are playing very important role in planning, implementation, and evaluation of the sport policy. And about policy outcomes. Well, we might separate different outcomes issues. What is out of those political, documents, institution activities, what we are striving for? What are the results out of this policy implementation? How we could evaluate, is it a policy good or bad? How policy is effective? Sure, there are big there is a big need of the concrete analysis and evaluations of those policy implications, but three main criteria as the policy outcomes must be taken into consideration. First of all, participation in sport. Secondly, consumption in sport. And thirdly, sport infrastructure. So as for participation, Lithuania is not the top level country in Europe. 48% are not active in physical education and sport at all. So the question is, how do we promote and implement sport policy, both at national and local level? This is a national data, not European even worse. So national data, so something is not going right on the right decision, because for more than 40% of the population, they are not active in sport. This is what I use this table from one of my articles, which is like a comparative, of the reasons why people are not active in participating in sport. So Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, and EU, as you can see, the most important reasons are the three ones: no time, lack of motivation or interest, and some disability or illness. So it's like a paradox. Sport is for promotion, healthy lifestyle, but people are, too ill, and possibly ill because they are not taking part. So it might be different consideration regarding that. So this is very short of the sport participation. I can read another lecture, about that. Second, consumption. Sure, yeah, if you are not practicing sport, you're not spending. If you are not spending, you are not getting value added to the national budget. So my team and myself, we've been in charge to complete the first consumption study in Lithuania based on instrument produced by the German scientist, by the Professor Holger Prof. So again, few slides about the study. There is a need to repeat it, but the idea is to measure how much households, the families, are spending on sport, both on active participation every day, active participation organizing camps, trips, and holidays, and spending on passive participation. So and these are different categories and so on. So we've been sampling 3,500 people in Lithuania, and we had a great study, and we do have great results out of that study. So what we found out that the profile of the sport consumer in Lithuania is a woman age 26-30 of active participation or passive participation, the urban dweller having a university education, employed as a specialist of public officer, and living in a family which incomes per person are 300, 500 euros per month. So, well, this is very brief introduction, but what I'm pointing out, this is a policy outcome. The more people participate, the more they spend. The more they spend, the more added value to the government in terms of direct benefits and indirect benefits government and state is able to get. And finally, sport infrastructure. Sport infrastructure. We are lacking sport infrastructure. This is not a big issue, and many countries are lacking especially Central and Eastern European countries, we are lacking of modern facilities, but times are getting good news for us. And we do have some excellent examples with the European structural funds or other European and private money to be able to build or reconstruct sport facilities, and again to create favorable conditions to our population to take part in sport, thus realize sport policy objectives and realize the sport policy programs. So in Druskininkai, we do have a snow arena, which is actually closed arena. So you can go downhill skiing, but you can go into the air and go back to the indoor as well. So this is a unique. Please come to Lithuania at any time to use it. Well, different multifunctional convention centers, and they were built or reconstructed regarding European Men's Basketball Championship, which was held in the year 2011. I will be speaking about it during my next lecture, but this is different arenas, and the most important arena is, well, most important or the most newest arena is Žalgiris Arena in Kaunas, And when it was built and prepared, and the final games were organized in the year 2011, so in 5 years time, it was recognized by EuroLeague as the best arena in Europe. And my final slide, final slide of this first lecture, towards sport policy and management and implementation, that, well, every country, we do have, as they say, our own speed of development. So, well, we know different practices from Scandinavian sport, from France, Italy, or other European or non-European country like Canada and Australia. Well, they are the best of the best, yeah, examples of sport policies in the world, Canada and Australia. But we live in Lithuania, I live in Lithuania, and my saying, my slogan of this and other situations like that, that doing the best we can with what we have, where we are. So striving to analyze, striving to follow, striving to interfere as an academics from the university parts, striving to interfere the sport policy implementation and realization and creation. We do and strive to do our best. And some references you may read and go into details if you are willing to. So thank you very much. Sorry for my time, which is more than expected, but I would be very happy